alarms are that long. And one person got it. Not all jokes land. Let's get it on. Hi, we're here for the special meeting called by the mayor Tuesday, July 21st, 2020.
Yeah.
I need a motion for the agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Paul Tisdale. Do I have a second? Second by Dixie Newman. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Mayor, your report?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I think we've given you 4 pieces of paper that we're going to discuss today. We're going to begin in 20, trying to address some things, but we also followed up with, I think you had asked last week about some details from the prior years as far as the revenue. We have presented revenues the last council workshop, and we provided additional information. So, but I really want to start with expenses. The expenses is the subject today, and we've been meeting, and I want to express my appreciation to the accounting group and Mike for interviewing and doing some of the things with the department heads and figuring out where we need to be with regard to ending this year as well as going to 21. So I would like to begin this story with the piece of paper called COVID-A. You see up at the top left-hand corner?
Mr. Mayor, could I ask you to reserve all of these details so we could dispense with the technicalities of the council report, the public agenda, and then we'll get into the meat of this meeting?
Okay. Yeah, well,
Conclude,
what do you want me?
Just conclude your mayor report.
That's it. That's it. That's it. That's my mayor's report. We're ready
Thank
to
you.
go.
Council reports, Mr. Tisdale.
Mr. Tisdale has no report.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Newman. Councilman Guines.
Negative.
Councilman, is that your COVID-19 results? Councilman Barrett.
No report.
And I have no report. This will take us to the public agenda, citizens' comments. It'll be 45 minutes allowed. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes per person. I'll start with the right-hand side of the room. Is there anyone here to speak? Move over to the left-hand side of the room. Is there anyone here to speak? Is there anyone in the back of the room that cares to speak? There being none, we'll take this to the policy agenda. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Resume.
President. Okay. I know I'm trying to be arbitrary or capricious, but we'll start this with the COVID-A piece of paper. Can everybody kind of locate that? And it's worth a little time trying to explain where we've been and where we're going and what we hope to do between now and the beginning of 2021. So everybody, if you look at everybody has the COVID-A sort of departmental reports. And you see the columns there. The budget is the revised budget that we started, 21 or 20 with. And through doing some changes, we wound up with an adjusted budget. Now, you can see the amount of the changes from the $61 million, we were able to kind of creatively pull that number down to 2.7. A big part of the 2.7 million, if you look at the personnel column right below where it shows the number of employees and that sort of thing, there was an effort to, I think we had a number of positions vacant in the budget, in the 2020 budget. When we did figure out that we were going to have a $4 or $5 million hole, yeah, and we were going to try and stop the outflow of the expenses. Now, in the 2020 budget, we were looking for about, was it 105 vacancies to fill throughout the year. So we put the brakes on first by actually reserving or pulling out of the budget about 88 positions. Is that not correct? We wound up leaving about 18 in the general fund and the rest in the other. So that, again, against the hole we're trying to close, we closed it by reducing that amount by 2.7 million. Then maybe I ought to stop and make sure everybody's with us there. So we started with 2020, reaching back in October 1 of last year. We looked at a budget starting with expenses of 61, and I think our revenues were about $4 million off. So we actually started with a $4 million, not a deficit spending, but we were going to start out with $8 million of cash, and based on the debits and the credits, we're going to wind up with only $4 million cash, using some of the fund balance and some of the year-to-date gains or loss. So that's what we started October 1 with, using some proceeds and some other things from other places. So this move has reduced that figure by $2.7 million. You with me? Most of it, again, by removing the capital items that we didn't have to build. That was a big part of it, as well as not funding, not hiring about 88 people. Everybody, so far so good? Mm-hmm. Okay. So, looking forward, last week, again, we looked at the revenues and trying to figure out where we were going to go with the bottom lines of both of them. All right, so if everybody, on the COVID page, we see budget adjusted, and you see the amount of money reserved. So what we thought we would do, since we actually had a basis for the beginning of 21, that budgeted adjusted column on COVID A, told us to be 58 million and some change, begins 2021. So if you now go to the next page, and I think it's dated 7/20/2020, or was it 7? What was the late?
7/21.
Yeah. Okay. So we're carrying over. This is actually nuts and bolts of what we should be working on today. So that COVID adjustments found its way into the column on that next page. It's called FY 2020 adjusted. This is the second page. Everybody there? So we skinnied back the expenses and began the workshops. First of all, the big hitter was eliminating 88 positions that were budgeted in 2020. And we did some other things with regard to those other classes of items. So what we did in COVID, that budgeted adjustments carried over to begin this 2020 conversation. Okay, now go to the second page. That shows you should have two columns, FY 2020 adjusted budget, a change, and then the proposed budget. All right, now basically, again, 70% of this budget is always related to personnel issues, wages, salaries, benefits, and those kinds of things. So let me stop just a second so y'all can take a breath and I can take a breath. Is everybody with me? So we're looking at the second page, and we're seeing a proposed 2021 budget. Now, okay? Okay. Now, so the departmental kinds of expenses are broken up to the administrative, executive, and legislative, legal, community development, parks, rec, police department, fire department, public works, and engineering. And again, let me give credit to the people who are up here on the stage with us for doing the nuts and bolts and the grinding of these figures. They did some further grinding and did some other things and reduced that figure that was 2.7 a little bit more, $606,000 more. So the bottom line of expenses, departmental expenses this year, we're proposing, if everything goes well, is $57 million. Okay, you see that bottom line? Now, at the end of find the engineering line, and the next line would be the total of those departmental folks. So far, so good? If you jump down to the center of the page, we have budgeted some vacancies. And I think that's a total of 18 in the departments, and the rest of them are in the water and sewer as well as port. So, again, the overall part, if you look at 41 million over 57 million, that's about 70% of the overall ball game of the total budget. But the rest of it is spread within the categories of supplies, services, contractual, and capital. Those are big figures, and we're putting some things back in. We're actually done some the ability to spread some big items over a number of years and use the debt service. Let me back up a little bit too, in that some of the debt service in this year will be utilizing to close that $5 million hole would be the refinancing of the $16 million of bonds. So we're utilizing that. Again, thinking of where we're going to make up $5 million from the loss of the revenue and sales tax in gaming, about $5 million. And, we're actually forecasting in revenues a little bit more not more sales tax, but ad valorem taxes. So I think things are looking up. A lot of, we actually increased, I think, ad valorem tax by about 3%, right? 3 or 4%. We're forecasting, okay? All right, so you see the categories, and pretty much, excuse me, pretty much this is by department and by category. And, what we're able to do is keep our directors in line where the classes of categories, they have control in moving things around, except for employees. I mean, we've got a number of, constraints on from the table, from the employment tables and so forth. So you can't be really creative. There are some restrictions that each department can do. But, within the categories is what we were asking you to, what's where we like to control the spending in those categories. And I think that's, by the law. Any questions so far? Now, again, we've, if you're going to ask about the detail, we can actually bring up the line items. We thought we could put it on the screen. But if there are any questions on, where did you come up with this or where did you come up with that, we have the detailed line item on each one of those. Paul?
Yeah. Looking at page 2, and at the top there, we have the different departments, and you got the fiscal year 2020 adjusted budget.
Right.
Then we have the change, and then the proposed 2021 budget. Now,
right.
Those changes there where and they total a savings of $608,000. Those are not personnel related. That's
the total of all changes, right? The ones that are personnel related are $202,000 down in the category called personnel.
Right. That's where personnel shows up.
Right.
So in that section now, in the section where you have the personnel, you've got one column with managers showing the number of managers that we have.
That's just the number of managers in each department, right?
And the next we have the number of actual employees.
Right.
All right. And then vacancies.
That within that budget, you had those vacancies in that budget.
Okay. So we have, for example, in community development, it shows 2 vacancies. Does that mean there are 2 community development vacancies that we will not fill?
No, we will fill.
We will fill.
But
okay.
That's budgeted. That's budgeted for 2020.
Right. And fire department, we have 8 vacancies that we will fill.
Right.
And police department, we have 7 that we will fill.
And again, all part of this budget.
Okay. Going back to the COVID spreadsheet, same thing when we talk about employees, they are under vacancies. That totals 100 vacancies. That's where we are currently.
That's what we had. That's right.
That's right. So that's where we are right now. We're 100 folks down, but a lot of those, a number of them are summer employees,
right.
part-timers. I don't know what portion, but
Put
that's why that's a big number. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
So what we did with that 100 employees, we removed about 88 of them. And the rate reserve, we moved that dollarization into that reserve column. So that's where, when you do $10,000 out of salaries and wages, you do accordingly the reduction in, the FICA and those matching things, as well as workers' comp.
Why, of course.
Right. So, I thank these ladies for grabbing that and doing this on grinding. It's a grind. So
they're getting it down to the penny.
That's right.
They're sharpening pencils. Yeah. Okay. I got it. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So far, so good? Okay.
We're still working on it. Just relax.
Okay, relax.
Running through it too fast here.
Okay. And again, while you're concentrating over there, I think, this is the first of I think many more. They'll go before September. We're asking to do a little bit more creative things for 21, that are reasonable. Let me throw a big, what was our success with the refinancing of the ballpark. I think about $18 million we refinanced from about 5 point something percent to about 2%. There's some other opportunities that we're researching at this moment that would result in, we would come back in probably in the water and sewer that would hopefully do a similar thing. There's a number of debt obligations that we pay to the utility authority that may have some possibilities of being refinanced. We did have some success in 2016 when the utility authority refinanced that.
No, and this is a good time to take advantage of that.
Yeah,
So-
you have to. I mean, like
Right.
that's the advantage right now. The conditions, that money should be, that asset value, it needs to be taken care of. Okay? All right, so in a nutshell, the very back corner of that second page, or actually the bottom line in general fund, departmental, to be bounced against the revenues that are on the second pages. So at this point in time, the bottom line in expenses is 57,870. Is that what we're saying? All right. Okay. That's what it's to run the employees and the supplies and provide the services that we need. That's the number, 57 and something. Well, this will be an ongoing kinds of things, but the departments that have been great to work with in figuring out, hey, we're in a challenging time. This COVID is not over with. Again, part of the FEMA and the state situation, we've already overcome about 2-point-something million in extraordinary wages and salaries. And they're booking this COVID, what's the number, 201, DE 201? Yeah, so that's an ongoing thing, and we'll submit, we've been registered with the FEMA in order to submit these extraordinary expenses. This is not lost revenue expenses, this is actual what we came out of our pocket to sit a number of people down, as well as overtime when we were in an emergency condition. Okay? All right, well, y'all are easy so far. All right, so the bottom line is 57 million. Again, let me thank everybody, Mike and accounting and each one of our department heads for working with us, both in the COVID situation as well as what we're going to do for 21. I'll give you all a few moments, and I'm kind of anxious to show that bottom line, 57, against what we're thinking are the revenues. Okay? Again, we can, if there are details that we need to do.
Where's this 57 million?
57 million is on the, you see the one that says adjusted or proposed 21 budget? Okay? See, you got 2020 adjusted budget, and you got one that says 21 proposed budget. You got this, not the COVID one, the one that looks like the COVID, but it's actually the proposed.
Second sheet? What sheet
Second
is it on?
sheet, second sheet.
It's a single sheet, and I highlighted proposed budget in yellow.
Not the COVID one, but the second one.
It's a single sheet. Mr. George.
Okay.
All right? See 57?
On,
Look at the proposed 21 budget.
yeah, I'm talking about the water and sewer. What was such the 1.7 increase? Why such so much? How would that increase that much?
And I think we've got some equipment that we're gonna buy. This is on the proposed 21, the increase of 1.7 million.
We're gonna buy a bucket truck?
Okay, Mike, or you can say Jody. What's the under the proposed, the change, an increase in water and sewer and port? That's made up of a bucket truck primarily and some other things as well as employees.
Well, that's a huge increase in that water and sewer, $1.7 million.
Yeah, we actually removed some of that stuff in 2021, and we're putting it back into the budget. If you look on the COVID stuff, you see how much was removed in water and sewer? Yeah, you delayed that. I guess the question is, George is asking, what's the increase, what's the 1.7 increase in the water and sewer? This is 1.7 here, I think.
How do you push button? Elements, capital outlay, and three utilities.
Okay, we're the capital item right there is what you look in the production. You got an increase of $677,000 and $674,000 worth in production in the sewer division. And is that equipment? Equipment.
It's also continuing the project to repair our water tanks. It's also building additional water lines and we've got a whole series of additional things we're doing in the water sewer enterprise fund next year. That's that difference between capital.
Right.
You're looking at capital. It's the difference between what the water sewer 1.7 million adjusted budget to 1.971. That's the additional capital, and it's also the additional projects that we're going to do.
Yeah. 1.3 million, 1.351974 is actually equipment, capital items that we're purchasing this year. Plus 2 employees? 3 employees. That's the increase.
So
From
you're talking about you added equipment?
equipment, we're purchasing equipment.
And it was that much money, $1.3 million?
Yeah.
Would you buy?
What do we buy? What are we talking
$1.3
about
million
buying?
is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Oh, they'll answer.
Are you, Councilman, you're saying that $200,000 is really
No, this number is what you're trying to get to, what we buy. 674 and 677, yeah.
74 is that's capital items. It's a vacuum truck. It's trucks.
Yeah, okay, so it's equipment. I don't know, there's a schedule somewhere. We'll get that answer for you. But it is equipment, long-term. It's an expense that has multiple years. It's not just, yeah.
Mike,
I guess I'm looking at this maybe a little different. I mean, this is supposed to be revenues, right?
No, expenses.
Okay, so I mean, you going from 16, so you saying total amount of water and sewer all of a sudden is up to 18 million, where it's always hung around 16 million. So
Yeah,
that's
well-
18 point something, because
All
you
right.
bought more equipment.
We,
hang on.
It's also the contractual cost of repairing our water tanks for the last 2 years. This year and the year before, continuing from the period. We're emptying, cleaning, repairing, repainting, and putting water tanks back online. This is work that's been delayed for years and years. We're back, so
and it's equipment that we need. For what?
I know we did Coon Street, what was the other one?
project.
We did the one at Coon
Go to
Street.
the capital
What was the other tank we redone? I know we did Coon Street.
a substantial amount of money. We had to empty the tank.
I think 750,000 was that.
Yeah.
What's the- what's the-
It said they're only increasing by 900,000.
Back in service, out of service for decades.
See if you got a schedule for that.
Last
We
year,
don't.
we did 5,
Where'd the number come from?
Mike,
All right, we need to,
including, well, it's 4 tanks last year that were done, painted again, emptied, like the one on Porter Avenue, the big tank on the
Right.
That was last year's work. So we're going through this series of rehabbing our water system includes tanks, lines, every month, we get our sales tax, $60,000 gets subtracted from our sales tax automatically by the state. Because of water sewer loans, we took over the history of the last decade or so. So instead of actually paying for projects out of our water sewer enterprise fund, we borrowed money. And that's nearly $750,000 a year.
Yeah, there's about $750,000 in repair of those kinds of items, but the $1.3 million is actually equipment. We'll get you the schedule. We're buying trucks and tanks and those kinds of things that we didn't buy last year, and that needs to be done, for those water and sewer. So, I guess what we really need is look at the schedule of the two sets of capital items. But again, that's a capital item that has more than 1 year. It's not a one-year deal. It's a multi-year line that would wind up going, in our fixed assets. So it's not, it's not. We won't be doing it next year. Okay. So that now, back to your original. That's the difference in the 1.7 million is made up the things that Mike talked about, the projects that we're doing within water and sewer, as well as the equipment we're buying, and the 3, I think, heads that are going to the ball game. All right, let me jump back and ask you, George.
The water sewer fund runs like a business. Take money in, money goes out. What's different this year, last year, the year before, since about 2017, is an actual positive. You actually collected enough money to be positive by the end of the year and to do these projects. Heretofore, we were borrowing money to do that. Big change from 5 years ago.
Let me go back, and I didn't mean to cut him off, but this is what I want to make sure that everybody's comfortable with. We talked about what we're going to do, okay? In general fund, the things that we can control, that total figure is 57 million, okay? Because it's important that when we get to the revenue side of the deal, that you see where we are, what we're proposing for 21. Okay, so you see the 57 million within the general fund departmental expense, okay?
Let's say that there.
Okay.
I was just working through some of the things, 'cause I
Yeah.
haven't really got to the revenue, because I got
and-
questions coming on that, so.
Well, this is what I would suggest is, we can do this thing till we're blue in the face. If you need details to back each one of these differences, but this is a consolidation of everything, each category of services, each department. So we'll give you the details on how this came from one number to the other. And that's an easy thing to do. We'll look at the two sets in water division and the sewer division, $677,000 and $674,000 in equipment. So that adds up to that 1.3. So in the next workshop, whenever that would be, we'll provide whatever details you need, trying to be transparent. And this is not just made up figures. There is a reconciliation, and there's a schedule that makes all this up.
I'd like to add one tidbit, kind of a light side. When COVID hit, it may have looked like we were a duck. We were like a duck, calm on the surface and paddling like hell underneath. In those first couple of months of the COVID, we actually removed $2.7 million from our 2020 budget. Did that by refinancing bonds, by changing conditions that we were going to pay for equipment, by going lease purchase and spreading things out in future years. So after 60 days of COVID, we're heading into the end of this last quarter, but we're heading in with a budget that's $2.7 million tighter. Now that was very painful for our police and fire, public works. I mean, 103 vacancies, pretty tough. I mean, our fire department today is struggling between people being off with COVID, the fact that we have so many vacancies, they're doing overtime like crazy, but they're not getting any time off. So,
But-
the departments are really tight right now.
Let me jump in too, as you mentioned this.
Mike, get you a mic over there.
Okay, yeah. Let me
Please.
say this. Again, COVID's not over with. These are extraordinary overtime that we do because of shortage of vacancies are booked to 201. All right? So as we go through the FEMA registration and we categorize that, that's all part of the rebasement. We're hoping to get $1.3 million, $1.4 million back for those kinds of details. OT, extra things that we're doing, pieces of equipment is going to be cut, not lost revenue. This is extraordinary expenses. The governor, MML, as well, we had the head of FEMA look at Station 10 the other day. So I think we're in position of that $5 million hole, at least 1.3 is coming back to us. And that's ongoing right now. So of that big $5 million, lose about $4 million in gaming, another $1 million in sales tax, okay? But you've already, Mike alluded to, hey, we saved $500,000 in refinancing. We may do some more of that. We did this and we did that. So it's all resulting in closing that hole, okay? So there's going to be some additional opportunities. Okay, I want to give you enough time, but I don't mind doing this over and over again until we're all comfortable. Because what I want to do, and these figures kind of back up from a strategy. Let's go to the revenue part of the deal we began last week, and it's the one that says general fund revenue. Again, like we did before, we looked at where we are, and this actually shows you some columns, 3 sets of things. When you pass the 2019 budget in October 1, 2018, this is what you approved in the column called Original, 2019 Original. And throughout the course of years, I think you had asked about what did we start with, how did we amend it. So we tried to show you these columns. So if you look at the heading of the page, so you got 2 sets of data as well as what we're proposing changing to. Okay, the FY original, amended, and actual in FY19, and the difference, whether we were over or under. This is revenue now, okay? Then under FY 2020, in 2019, October 1, the original budget in the revenue is shown there. What we did throughout the year, the amended, and what we are revised right now. In the actual column, it shows where we are through 9 periods, and I think a little bit of this of period 10. So that's why when you look at the end, you can see there's only $45 million that we collected. We're anticipating, closing that with the number of some more gaming, some more sales tax, and some other things, gaming devices and all of that. So let me give you a chance to absorb that. So what we've shown you and how it's booked in Munis, the classified, by the categories of property taxes, licenses, franchise fees, intergovernmental grants, fines and forfeits, rents, grants, and others. So far, so good?
Question on
It's okay. You find out what it is.
you were down 617,000, but yet you still in proposing an increase from a couple, what is that? 296,000.
Where are you
You
talking
were
about?
down 600,000.
Yeah,
Are you
tax.
projecting an increase of
All right, well,
300,000?
because in August, there's something called a big tax sale, okay? A tax sale happens in August, and we get the money back. And plus, people have been paying their taxes all along. So we expect to exceed that figure for this year. But looking at what's off the tax roll, or what has these abatements that have gone off the tax roll, plus the increase in that the assessed value, we feel that that's where we're going to be. So we're going to increase that. Similarly, with the personal property, it does a similar thing. If you're asking about the change from the 7.4 to the 7.696, okay, does that make sense?
Yeah. Which one is that on?
The first one, ad valorem taxes.
All right.
Okay, we're looking, right now, if you look in the column of what we have now, actual receipt is a 6.7. We'll exceed that because I know what we're going to get this month, as well as the August tax sale that we'll receive in September. Okay. So, and again, as well as, talk with the tax assessor and those kinds of projections, as well as the schedule. I think Jared gives us a schedule of what items, the abatements that are going off the tax roll that will be coming back on and be booked for the following year, which is what we're going to, work with. So that's a big thing. Our tax base is increasing, so that's why we reflected that. But the whole idea is we're anticipating a change, either, from the base of 2020 to where we are. Of course, in gaming, we were more conservative. If you look down in the middle of the pages, where's gaming, Joe? Is that in,
That's the same thing with being down 147,000, you'll collect that at the end? Because you're still rating everything 190,000. So you figure that'll be still 190? Because according to this thing here, you're down $147,000
which one?
on the third line.
That's prior year taxes. That's we're going to collect in 2021 from people paying their taxes this year. And I think we use that based on what we actually collected after the beginning of the year, doing, people paying even more than just 1 year backwards. So that's why we're conservative in doing about that, 190.
And right here, they got the next line, the 310, the
Right.
revised the 310, you got a negative 192. So how'd you get 502,000 under?
That's what, I'm not sure, that's something, penalties and interest. What
I mean,
was that, Mike? What was that?
None of this adds up right there.
Minus 310.
The county did a major cleanup of properties for penalties and interest, and we had a huge credit back to us that was against us. That happened this past year. It's a anomaly.
One time.
It's a one-time situation.
Right. That was
The negative,
How you gonna overcome the 500,000?
That's what we had 502,000, and they pulled back that amount. So we're just scheduling just a normal amount without that back.
we're scheduling the normal amount that should happen and not this one-time situation that did happen. We
Okay, but-
normally get 310.
You know, where'd the 502 come from really? Because you had 310, your negative 190s. So how did 502?
Because we had penalties and interest already, and then they had a huge $300,000 cleanup that ate into our revenue. So that's how we ended up with a negative. So we had on schedule 310.
I mean,
But they came, I just,
negative 502, so you say
Yeah.
you're gonna overcome this 502,000, how?
well, that was,
And I got it listed here as a negative. Now, if that's not right, is that supposed to be a negative 502?
No, it's a negative 190. It was a negative,
And right on the side, you got here 502 under.
yeah, no, actual was negative 190 they took back from us, right?
they took over 300,000 back in interest and penalties during this fiscal year. So we already had revenue booked. So that 300,000 ate into the revenue that we already obtained.
We don't anticipate that this year.
We do not anticipate this happening again. This was not something that we could have foreseen.
So the beginning, the
That looks
310.
like that could be a lot listed better on this thing than being a negative 500,000. It looked like there's another way you could list it. I mean, according to this thing, me looking at it, according to what you just hear, you under 502,000, you keep saying you're not. So that shouldn't be on here then. It's not
They-
502. It says under, right on the side of it, 502,960.
Well, we'll figure out what the adjustment is, but bottom line, it's a one-time kind of deal. What
is wrong on the spreadsheet.
what,
The math is wrong on the spreadsheet.
on this spreadsheet?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what it is.
All right, well, whatever. The 310 is actually what we're anticipating for 21.
Correct.
Okay. So you can see the bottom line in that category, property taxes, we're looking for at least $400,000 more of property tax in that classification. And that's the detail. I don't know yeah, okay. All right?
The first sheet you give us, Popo, the projected budget was 10,735,000. And then on this one here, you got 11,293, and the budget projection on this other sheet was 11,293. So
What
why do
sheet
we
are we
have
talking about, George?
the old sheets? Why you have two different numbers here? You have this one highlighted, which is less. This number here is
Is it
on this
revenue or
page.
expenses? What are you looking at? Revenues?
This is all revenue. And 393 is on this page.
Well, this is the latest as of this morning. I'm not sure. The 11,293 is what we anticipate right now, as of this morning. And that's
I'm
made
just-
up of those projections right there. Now, if you look further down where gaming is, the big hitter there, you can see, go down the change number, you can see that -1,895. So we had budgeted at the beginning of the year 18,950, and if we actually projected the loss, a percentage of the net first 3 months of the year for gaming, we're not going to be at full strength, and we're guessing we'll be at full strength in January of 21. But we're about booking about 75% for the 3 months in October, November, and December. And that's where we generated that 1.85 down look. So we'll be, balancing it. And the bottom line, that 17 million is part of the bottom line that I'm going to get to and kind of show you against the expenses. We have a relatively good position on how we'll start our FY 2021.
All right, that's your best guess as of this moment.
Right now, right.
Because we still got another month, 2 or 3 in
Right.
this year.
But-
You're going to get new numbers that may be good
Right.
indicators for
It's a moving target. Again, let me give you an example. Now, we won't know the ball game till after we see our August figures. Diana came from the gaming industry. She knows how this works, and she knows what to expect. We were fortunate in June, where we were playing the 70% game. It turned out to be 81.5%. But there are some things that are in question at this point because you've got a number of people who have a little bit more additional funds. Okay, we just reopened. We had a good Memorial Day weekend. We had a decent June. And all these, from the gaming numbers, that translated into more than we expected. I think of 1.7 against 1.2 million is what we got, and that was 81.5%. So we're guessing still, that hole will be there, but we're projecting the 3 months of the remaining 3 months from October, November, and December to be about 70% strength, or we may be surprised. But so that's why we'll say 70% off for the first 3 months, and then at full strength based on what we did last year. We were on a tear last year, up until August.
Well, and we're hoping we do what you suggest we do. That's why we're wearing these masks and trying to do everything we can to keep the numbers looking good.
That's it.
They got to get better than what they are now. If they keep going in the wrong direction, then it may be significantly less than what we're predicting.
Yeah.
But that's how this mask business comes into play for city finances. Okay.
Right. Okay, so that's a big number. I'll look at these revenues and the biggest hitters first. Every week when I do this, I look at the top hitters and see where we are. I don't look at it in class. I look at where we are. But so that 2 million is a 1.89 that we're anticipating is a relatively good guess, because it's just a guess.
Good as anybody else's right now, right?
Yeah.
Probably better.
And we're guessing throughout the ball game here. And you could look at the bottom of what we're guessing. The bottom line is 58. Do you see the 58, 188,547?
Which one is that on?
These two budget, the revenue page, all this guessing and all this total proposed budget, this revenue is 58 point, let me put my glasses back on.
58, 188,
That's it.
547.
Now, go
Bingo.
back to this figure for 57.
Right.
Okay, so we see our revenues are on top of our expenses.
We'll keep up the good work.
Well, this is just guessing.
Right.
But, it's an ongoing thing, and we will be a little bit more creative as we roll through. I think there's some opportunities that we don't have right this second, but we're chasing it.
Right.
Maybe for you to explain something to me on the fees, the franchise fees.
Okay?
I know last time you had the cable system listed different. You had it at 70,000 and 50,000. This time you put it back into the cable.
This is
Put it to
Cable
2
One and BTV?
Why was that taken out, or why was it separated the first time?
Well, I think
70,000 for the B News or whatever it was.
there was to offset the
1,000.
expenses related to the B News, yeah. So we pulled out of one and put it in the other.
Say again?
We took it out of one and put it in the other.
I mean, why would,
Same 7, just so, because we want to do a little bit more of a tracking for, that component that we made the agreement with,
this is the fee, they pay us $270,000 a year for that stuff on
that's
TV?
4.3% of the cable service. That's a franchise agreement that we signed a number of years ago, but it goes on for 25 years, similar to what you're going to be voting on in November with regard to Mississippi Power. 3? Is that what it is? 3? I think so.
Yeah, but as we go across the thing, you got it a negative of 70,000.
Well, we just pull that out. We pull it out of one and put it in the other.
And on the other 50,000, you got a negative 30,000.
Same thing.
Trying to figure out what we're doing there.
We separated B News, so that negative 70 is or positive 70 underneath. So we just took, it's still a grand total of 270. We just separated it by B News's project.
Then why do you have a negative 70,000 on the end?
Well, you
Because,
see, look
because
at
we had to take the 70 out of just one line item to put the 70 in the second line item to separate it and segment it further.
Out of the original
see the
line,
end-
put it in the other one, made
You
the other
see-
one 270.
so we
Correct.
could track it separately.
Still 270, it's just
Look at
one line down.
Look at under that category. You see an ND 520. That's the project that we actually tracking all the real stuff to. So it just came out of one, put it in the other, so we could establish that account.
So why are we projecting just 200,000 then? Your projecting budget is 200,000. So you eliminated 70, you put it in, took it out.
We put it back in another line, another 50, whatever the 70 was. We put it back in. It's still classified as the franchise fee, but it's just in a different line item. You see the same object code.
Look under the proposed column, Mr. George. You see the 200 and then the 70? That's the 270
Another
together.
thing, you got 70,000 over.
No, you don't.
We had the revenue back
Yeah,
to
right
change.
on.
We actually,
Not 270 over, though.
When you
It's
put the
still 270.
70,000
It's
right
still
underneath, you got a
270.
negative 70.
it's still a total of 270. We just separating them by line item.
Okay.
You see go look on the left-hand side of the page where it says ND 520, so we could track it. When they book charges and expenses and revenues to it, that number is supplied to the accounting system so you can get a reconciliation. Almost what we're doing with the COVID thing. What is that, 201? Okay, yeah. All right. Well, when it comes, that's where we'll book it to. If it comes, and basically, if we get 70,000 for that, that's where it's going to show up. But again, looking at where we are actually, okay, that's the 45 million under the 2020 budget, and where we're going to project our ways, to be. Again, expenses, again, apples and apples, general fund kind of stuff and general fund kind of revenue. We're projecting revenues on top of expenses. Okay? And that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
That don't mean it right.
That's my story. No, really,
That's
seriously.
your story.
That is, but we're going to back all this information up. You take this home and read it casually. If you've got questions, we will address that in detail. If you really, see something that you can't understand. Again, as far as what we're going to do in the next workshop, I think the next thing we need to do is accept our audit. Okay, and that's the subject. We ought to have another workshop when there are some discrepancies. I think accounting has just, looked at numbers that don't fit together in what the Coach Williams and LaRosa, gave to us.
Are they cleaning those up? I mean, they're
Yeah,
working
they are.
on that?
They're
Okay.
supposed to be. They've got the numbers from the utility authority. Their audit was supposed to be delivered. There was some
Okay, so
condition
there'll be some changes to what
Yeah.
we
And
got
that,
to look over earlier,
That's
and
right.
at some point, they'll come before the council. All that's
That's right.
cleaned up, we'll have better numbers, we'll accept it at that point.
That's right. I think that we should have a workshop or some gathering to get John over here, apprentice, to come in.
Yeah, and we might do that, before
Sure.
the council meeting,
Yeah.
an hour or two
Or
before.
during the council, that's right. I don't think it'll take that long. There's, George and everybody's, I think Diana's looked at some numbers that don't.
To
really-
answer any questions
Yeah,
and
I think
that kind
that
of
would be our next thing, because we really want to, at the beginning of what we operated with this year, we had projected, okay, we started with 8 million cash in the general fund, and, we pulled some cash here, and we're going to wind up with 4 million, okay? That was just booked, because we had more expenses than revenues. This one, it's not going to be that way. So, but what we did lose was that $5 million worth of revenue. Right. So we want to be, again, the council looks at where we are cash-wise, not fund balance, but actually cash-wise. So that will give us the ability to say, we talked about our balanced budget. It's just not a balanced budget, but this is. I mean, if you're just looking at revenues and expenses, this is what is needed. I think what everybody's been trying to do.
Yeah, that audit book, those numbers we got to carry forward, so they have to be true numbers. And they gotta be
Whatever the number is, which we're going to add to.
mistakes in that book,
We-
so
we
that
can-
stuff is
hopefully
gotta be
we'll-
corrected. Whatever the number's supposed to be.
That's right,
needs to
whatever
be
it
the
is.
right numbers, 'cause that's how you move forward to the next year.
That's it.
So those
So,
numbers coming from there,
what we're
gotta be the same.
What comes in and what goes out is you call year-to-date gain or loss. And this is, we're expecting 58 to come in, 57 to go out, and that's where we are.
You gotta have the right number to start with.
Yeah, that's it, that's it.
That's the key. And according to that audit book, there are there's too many mistakes in there.
Well, I mean, that's easily straightened out. I mean, hopefully, they will see where the corrections need to be made.
It's like I told Charlotte, I just need to know the right numbers, whatever they are. Just give me the right numbers for us to move forward from 19 to 20 to the next year. It's just gotta be the book's gotta be corrected, that's all.
True.
So I have no problem with whatever you have. Probably won't take that long to do that, but we
I don't
need
think
to
so.
do that.
We can do it during the council meeting when we meet again.
I'll make a motion that we recess. for this
We're
meeting.
just gonna streamline the next couple of meetings, start streamlining the departments.
We got plenty
Yeah,
of
if you,
time.
if you have questions with regard to the department, how they got there, based on these categories, then we'll set the process up. Of course, police and fire, that's the main thing, and water and sewer. There are some things that we would, we're gonna be booking and building, especially when it comes to water, sewer, and garbage. Utility Authority, in their, we have been, I think, charging our folks $14 a head, $14 a location for garbage collection. But we've been-
$14.80.
That's what they've been paying? Or
That's
what
how
we-
much they're paying.
Oh,
That's
they're-
how much we're charged.
I thought it's like $14.33 going up to $16.
$14.33 2 years ago, $14.80 this year,
Okay.
And
going up to $15.77.
So, well, I think the $16 was a magic,
more progression.
yeah. But, again, part of that offset, part of that increase may be what we could decrease by refinancing the debt.
Gotcha.
But we don't know the details of that. But basically, we saved a bunch of money by refinancing 16 or 17 or 18 million, I'm not sure, but we got about, our part of that is probably about 38 or 39 million at about the same rate.
Let's ask Jody a question. That 627 employees that we got on that one list, is that what we actually have on that sheet y'all just give us?
585, I think, in the general fund, plus another 24.
This one here. You got 585.
585 plus water and sewer.
Well, this one here, excuse me, this is the one y'all give us today.
644
Positions.
people and 24 vacancies in this budget. 644 is what we have right now. It consists of 600 employees, 13 permanent part-time, 9 appointed officials, 8 elected officials, 13 public planning commissioners, and 1 prosecutor. 644 people. 600 is full-time.
Well, I thought this here adds up to 627. Where you getting the 644 from?
What are you adding up, Mr. Jordan?
Which one is you looking at?
I'm talking about full-time employees.
585 plus 59 is 644.
In the general fund's 585?
44.
585.
Okay, but you have the people like council people and the other things that make up 600 plus, which is on a payroll.
You gotta put the.
Oh, that's all, right there. It says actual. I added up the actual number.
585 plus how many in water and sewer?
The 59.
59.
It's 644 every day of the week.
That's employees,
Yeah. So we got on
not positions, because we're paying positions, but these are employees.
44 people right now.
Well, I added to 627 unless I missed something somewhere. So I don't know where y'all got 644 from.
Where's this guy? Let me show you, I don't have it on mine. Give me your, proposed one. What is that? What is that?
To get this county bodies thing, you know,
What is that right there?
600,
About 85 plus that, that's it.
747.
That's the employees we pay,
Right this second.
right?
Includes the council, it includes the planning commission, it includes the directors, you know, it includes 50 people for summer camp,
But we got 24 of
Includes
those,
6
or 18 of those
summer
are
camp
positions, budget
lifeguards.
positions.
Find it?
I was looking at the COVID thing with the 627.
Oh, yeah.
COVID.
Yeah,
Robert showed me the right sheet. I had the wrong sheet.
okay.
Thank you. No problem. No
There's
problem.
a Dr. John song about that, wasn't it? Right place, wrong time.
Hey, hey, I'll let you know. Shoot, ain't no problem.
What was that, Paul?
Is your
I don't remember that.
microphone on? I want to make sure the
Something like
record acknowledges.
What about wrong time?
I said, is your microphone on? I want to make sure the record catches you thanking me.
Thank,
Or saying, Jody, you're right.
I-
I'm supposed to hear that too.
thank you, Robert.
Okay. Good job, gang. Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Did they recess?
It was a,
We done?
it was a
Tell you one-
motion to recess by
Let you
Mr.
finish,
Lawrence,
son.
I think.
Robert?
I'll second it.
I'll second. I think we got 4 left.
Can I vote?
I wasn't leaving the room so,
What time is it? Is it 4:10?
I wasn't leaving the room so you could vote without me like you did last week.